Excellent.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail.
Welcome back, SportsRanter Nation. We are your hosts, Jake, Drew, and Ben. We want to remind you we're here every Tuesday live at 6 p.m. helping you build your fantasy football team, okay? And not only are we helping you draft, but the draft euphoria is over. Now we're in the nuts and bolts into week 4. And the reality of your fantasy football team is right there in front of your face. So I want to say thanks to Jake and Drew for being here today. And we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things happening in the league. We want to cover the waiver wire. We want to cover what you might do if you need to make trades, if you're in panic mode 0-4. And also, like I said, kind of discuss obviously the waiver wire, giving you insight on what to do per position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But look, I want to start out, to tell our viewers we're not only here to help you draft, but we're here to help you deal with the highs and lows. And Jake, I want to apologize because last week I was congratulating you on your deep round value with Rashee Rice. And we're talking about how it's so good. And now the first news I see this week, waking up, watching the game, that he's out for the season, and my heart just kind of dropped for you, man. And so I really did. So anyways, if you can take us into that and roll us into what you're going to do to salvage this.
Yeah, it's obviously Rashee Rice was the start. Devon A-Chain and any, with Miami, pretty much every piece in Miami was doomed. Well, we see it now. Without Tua, last week he had an okay game, but so just Rashee Rice was kind of the big one, but there was some other injuries that followed. But it's luckily I got off to a 3-0 start. I can afford a few weeks of turmoil to kind of figure out. Hopefully hit it right on some waiver wire picks, and we'll see what happens. Everybody's fighting the injury bug, but I don't know. This is, I think, now where people that put the extra effort into fantasy a little bit, instead of just on draft day, but now paying attention to, hey, who's getting targets and what number 2 backs and what number 2 receivers are seeing more and more work. Things that aren't there on the ESPN stat line every, on Sunday night. But the things that are kind of underneath the surface, the people that are paying attention to that can get that little bit of an edge, are going to be the ones that can kind of overcome these injuries and some of these things that are happening to everybody. Because you could be riding high and then it just takes one quarterback falling into your leg, So I'm gonna hopefully I have a few players that kind of have it. I got Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I'm still kind of hoping that he emerges as the guy behind DK. But right now he's kind of competing with the other guy, Bobo, and Lockett's still there. So we'll see. There's still time for things to materialize, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I like how you mentioned that you did start well, so you do have time to salvage and make the moves. But you're right. You got to pay attention. Drew, we haven't heard from you for a few weeks. It's good to see you. But like I said, we've all kind of been here before. We've all dealt with injuries. You yourself are dealing with the injuries. But you're riding high. I'm going to bring up the standings as you go here. But let us know. Let us know what you have done. If you are 0-4, your team is going with injuries at this point, and the reality has sunk in with your fantasy football team, what are you going to do?
No, yeah, it's the week 4. I always feel like you have the data out there. You have the knowledge now. You know what defenses have changed from last season, which offenses have changed. All these things. Like, you look now, it's like, dude, Patrick Mahomes, everybody talks about it, right? I mean, he hits like a top 12 quarterback, like so low percentage that he's a fantastic, obviously he's one of the best, if not the best, debatable quarterback of all time. But for fantasy, the last 2 years, he's not it. Like, the dude hasn't really hit on a consistent level at all. And so it's like, what do you do? Travis Kelce, all these big time tight ends, like, what do you do with these guys? How do you try to trade these guys? Can you trade these guys? And if you can, like, what values with it? You know what I mean? So you have to really just open your eyes and say, hey, like, scrap your draft. You have some of these guys, try to trade them off for what you can, or you just sack up and have to try to take the ride and hope that somebody else on your can, you know what I mean? You have some players that are able to do that spark, but it's tough. Right now, it's hard. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are the two best quarterbacks in the league. Like, nobody would have expected this. Running back wise, like, James Cook started off hot, but he's kind of fading off. So it's like, how do you maneuver this kind of stuff? You know, my best advice is trying to get out there and try to trade those big names, because those names hold value. You know what I mean? Like, if you have the Tyreek Hill, he has value, his name. So it's like, yeah, there are situations rough right now with Tua. Who knows when he comes back? You know, they're basically playing shuffle quarterbacks every week. And midway through the third quarter, Tyler Huntley had 38 passing yards. 38, as in 3-8.
Right.
You got to trade these guys. You know what I mean? You have to try and trade these guys if they're on your team, for the name value alone, because it's not going to change. No, they're not going to bring in some magical quarterback and throw for 300 yards. It's not going to happen. So just be alert and be.
And I think this is a good thing for people to know too, because if it depends on where you're at with your team. Like, trading Tyreek Hill right now, like, if I'm 0-3 and I know that Tua, say we get news that Tua will be back in 2 to 4 weeks. If I'm 0-3, I'm not going to trade to receive Tyreek Hill, because I need to win now. But if you a team that maybe started 3-0 and you have Tyreek Hill, you know, you can afford to go get something from him, you know, or you could, you know, afford to sit on him. But there may be a team that's desperate, you know, or say you're 3-0 and you know, you can trade to get Tyreek Hill is what I'm saying, you know, where you can afford to have him sit and maybe take a loss or two, you know, go 1-2 till Tua comes back. And then, you know, then you have a really elite weapon. It's circumstance, you know, nobody that's 0-3 is looking to buy Mark Andrews, Tyreek Hill, you know, things like that. But if you're one of those teams that's 3-0 and you can maybe afford, you know, 4-0, and you can afford to, hey, give up a week or two to hopefully, if you believe these weapons are going to come back, you know, it's kind of circumstantial, you know, it depends on every team. Yeah. Somebody will see value in Tyreek Hill if the word is that Tua is going to come back, you know.
No, it's a fantastic point. It all depends on the situation that you're in, and like what your record is, what's sitting on your bench, and what's also out there. And so I've got this thing posted up here. Give me a second. Our league standings are up. So I want to let the viewers know, you know, if you can see right here, first place is Jake's roommate. Okay.
And I have to just say this now. You know, I've been instructed to give a very important message to the viewers in the league that he is all guns loaded coming for you. His name, his team name may not make any sense, but he's locked and loaded, and he wants everybody to know that they all have targets on their backs. He's ready to win this thing.
Well, I love it. I love to hear it, you know. I mean, so that's what we need. That's the type of energy that we have in our leagues, the type of competition, the type of fellas that we got to deal with. But like you said, he has some obstacles to overcome. If you look at the standings closely, he is at the top. But number 2 is host Andrew. Number 3 is host Ben. Number 4 is host Jake. And back up there, host at number 5 is host Nico, who's out in Italy right now. We can't wait to have him back. but yours truly is right up there at the top. And so I just want to let those know, and let Mike know. We've all been here before. We've all been in tough situations. Even though Jake,
You what?
I said, even though Jake is hurting with the injuries, I bet you he's not going to quit. He's not going to just let this happen to himself and just quit like most people might do. So I'm just letting you guys know that we do put in our time. You can trust us. We're giving you the right information.
Actually, my roommate has been there once before a few years ago. He went 6-0 and then lost 7 games in a row and missed playoffs.
Oh, you want a bad juju it, huh? You want a bad juju his talk. Well, it's going to be fun. Like I said, it's going to be fun. And like I said, if you're here, if you have a start-sit question, if you're in a situation, that's why we're here. We're here to help you guys figure those out, what might be best. If you're in a situation where you have Tyreek Hill or Tony Pollard, you know, who are you going to start in your flex, right? I mean, it's only obvious you're going to go with Tony Pollard over Tyreek Hill. It doesn't make any sense. Well, right now it does. So those are the type of moves and risks that you have to make throughout your season if you want to get these wins. Jake, in your league, I feel like my team is good enough to compete, right? But when you lose by 0.4 and you know that all games come down to 1 point, or all seasons and playoff runs come down to 1 game, that was a gut wrencher, man. That's a gut wrencher when you lose by less than a point. When you know,
and we're all going to have that. You know, there's going to be weeks where we win, you know, by less than a point. And you know, I was pretty much cooked last night. I was close with Beth, and you know, Jamison Williams got 1 catch that he took to the house for, you know, a 50-yard touchdown that won me the game. You know, it's 1 catch. We're always 1 catch away. In one of my other leagues, my old man lost to Jeff Seeley by less than a point, and my dad has Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews dropped that ball wide open, you know, that would have won it. And it's just like, yeah, there's nothing worse in fantasy than you can go to 100 different plays and be like, if he just would have caught this, or somebody just would have caught that, you know. It's rough life.
I mean, in your league, I had a pretty bad heartbreak too. I mean, Younghoe Koo has done absolutely nothing the last 3 weeks, and so I finally switched him out. Tried to get Jason Myers, and Younghoe Koo goes off for 20 points.
Yeah.
Easily would have won me the week against the Broncos. 2-2, and now I'm in a hole now 1-3, and I'm just kicking myself for that one.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Allow me to rant, because it's like, here's the situation. All I needed was 6 points from Sam Laporta, and I win. Okay, so I go early on Sam Laporta. Jared Goff is perfect in this game. He gets a touchdown himself, okay? But it's like, I drafted Laporta early. He should be getting fucking touchdowns, all right? But I can't even get 6 points from him, and when I fucking need him against James fucking Miles, out of all people, you know,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just so fucking gut wrenching. Like when you wake up and you're excited and you're anticipated on what's happening, and you see that, it's just, you're just, fuck my life, you know. But but that's what happens, and so we. Even though you have good teams, sometimes you come up short, you know, like you're playing the good team. Like Nick blows up every week now, you know, with Baker Mayfield, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara on his team going off, you know, so.
And that is, on a side note, just if you know, people watching, get in leagues that, one, are competitive, but it's like, I feel like in every one of my leagues, in my league specifically, that everybody loves beating everybody else and everybody hates losing to everybody else. It's so much more fun because it's so personal. Like nobody wants to lose to James Miles. Golly, nobody wants to lose to that guy, you know? Like there's no other league where it's so personal with every other player in the league. I mean, Richie, I think, is 3-1. That should scare the shit out of everybody. Like,
Yes, it is.
God forbid if that guy wins, you know.
And quite honestly, I was looking at his team and what he was doing. I was like, "What are you doing?" And now he's 3-1 and leading. So it's like, what do I know, right? But yeah, you're right. But that's what I want to encourage. If you're a viewer here, if you're watching the Sports Renter and you have friends, families, and neighbors that you want to humiliate, we are your people, because that's what we're into. We're trying to humiliate our friends, our family, and our neighbors with fantasy football. So that's why we're here, and that's why we love it. So we want to go forward and talk about a few things. Some big things that are happening around the league. We're hearing some news about Davante Adams. Okay, this is big news for me because I have him on the bench right now in our league, and I'm still pulling off some wins. So what are we gonna do about Davante Adams, or what are the Raiders gonna do about Davante Adams, Drew?
I mean, Jake mentioned it to us in our text group that we have, but it's so weird, you know. I mean, obviously, you had the previous week where Antonio Pierce is saying, you know, people made business decisions, and so we're going to make business decisions. And then after this game, you got Davante Adams. You know, there's some tweet by Schefter or some insider basically saying that he may have played his last snap, and then Antonio Pierce likes it on social media, and basically that makes Davante Adams pissed off, and I guess now that he formally says that he requests a trade. So it's totally, I don't think I've ever seen a coach do that kind of stuff involved in like social media shit. But that just kind of goes to show like how dysfunctional this franchise can be. You know, and so the other thing for me is what team is he going to go to? Like, do the Raiders really have? I know we're talking about the Chiefs and whatnot. Are they really that foolish to try to? I don't anticipate the Chiefs sign him long term. I think like a 1-year rental if they do that. But do you want to be the team that like, oh yeah, the Chiefs are the only team that three-peated because we gave them fucking Davante Adams? Like, you have to make it a first-round pick if it's Davante. Like, if the Chiefs get Davante, it has to be a first-round pick. I get it if it's another team outside your division and it's a second-round pick. It's a challenge. The other, but I don't know, bro. I don't know if I can live with that being like the Raiders GM. Like, oh yeah, I gave Davante Adams. They get a third Super Bowl out of it. Like, but other than him, usual suspect like the Jets. You know, obviously we can see them doing it. Obviously the Chiefs. We can see maybe Buffalo. I mean, would Buffalo be intrigued by that? Like, I know they just got rid of Stephon Diggs and the diva stuff is kind of gone, but I don't see Davante Adams being that big of like a full-on diva, to be honest with you. I don't. I just think he wants to win, and he's on a shithole franchise right now. And so I don't see it being a big issue if he does.
What do you think, Jake? What do you think, Jake?
I mean, you guys know I called this since before the season started that Davante Adams doesn't finish the season as a Raider. Like you guys know I've been saying this and calling this for since the beginning of the season. I think for fantasy wise, if you're a Davante owner, anywhere he goes is going to be better than the Raiders. I mean, so better days are ahead. Better days are ahead for your fantasy stocks. I mean, straight up. Yeah, from a football standpoint, he goes to the Raiders to be with Derek Carr. Derek Carr, due to contract issues and shit, I think that half the season or whatever got hurt the first season he was there. Then he left. And Davante's just basically been in this wasteland. Honestly, I was listening on the radio today. Davante Adams' contract and what he owes doesn't really leave the Chiefs. The Chiefs have like $4 million in cap space, and Davante's owed a lot more than that. They can obviously shuffle things around, but they would have to do a lot. The place I think that Davante Adams goes that's a fit for both is San Francisco. To be honest with you, you just lost Rashee Rice. Debo is not reliable to be healthy all year. We don't know when McCaffrey's coming back. I don't know what the hell's going on with Ayuk. But if San Francisco can rent Davante Adams for a year, I think that would be a great fit. But regardless where he goes, you know, I think it will be a contender. As far as like it has to be a first round pick and a GM like being responsible for the Chiefs three-peating, they don't care about that kind of stuff. I don't think it's more like what's the most value I can get, who's willing to pick up this contract and move on and rebuild. But yeah, it's hopefully it happens sooner than later. Because what would suck is if Devontae Adams just doesn't play for 3 weeks and then they don't trade him because we don't know like what they're gonna do. Maybe nobody wants to take on that contract and give up a first, so that not, who knows?
But in all honesty though, like Jake, like if say Devontae does go to San Francisco, like he's not gonna have that much value. Like he'll still obviously be better than he is in the Raiders, sure, but like spreading the ball around with that many targets and that many people, it kind of kills everybody else's fantasy value on San Francisco. Like I don't
true.
Think,
I agree, but I'm talking from a football standpoint, from a franchise like San Francisco that wants to win now. I mean, just after I think it would be a great fit. I think honestly, with that many weapons, what defense in the NFC is going to even be able to? They already hardly can't keep pace with them. What defense would be able to seriously cover that offense? If you get him, if you have the money, the cap space to get him on a 1 year for a Super Bowl run, I think it works for Devontae. It works for the Niners. Debo is not. Be realistic here. Debo and Kittle, they're very known injury-prone guys. Ayuk, we don't know what the hell is going on with. I mean, God only knows. I have invested in him in so many leagues. So Devontae Adams may be a pleasant surprise there, from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Drew. I don't think he's like a diva where he's just looking to get paychecks. Even though it's his talent that gets him paid.
He's under contract this year. He's going to get paid regardless of where he goes.
Right, but I think he originally went to the Raiders with Derek Carr at the helm with the idea of winning. So he wants to win, and so I think regardless through his agent or whatever he does, he's requesting the trade to go to a contender. So that's what's exciting. Whether it be in the NFC or whether it be in the AFC, Devontae Adams wants to be on a winning team. And there is scenarios out there where he could be needed to change that right now. What's going on with the Eagles with all of their receivers out? That's a stupid scenario too. But that's just an example of what's going on out there. There's injuries, a lot of things happening. And I agree with Jake. I wouldn't put it past the 49ers. I wouldn't put it past...
Everybody says, everybody talks like he wants to go to the Jets. I mean, sorry, but didn't Aaron Rodgers just get out beat by Bo Nix? Like,
yeah.
The Jets don't exactly look like contenders here.
I mean, it's a possibility because there's obviously some confusion with him as receivers. He has a connection with Devontae. Devontae speaks his language. There would be a connection, but I'm not so sure. I don't know. Robert Salah is just making bad choices left and right. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's hard to find out what the priority is for these organizations. What leads me to my next portion. I mean, in 2 years in a row, we've seen the second overall quarterback taken do a little bit better. Last year, it was Bryce Young. C.J. Stroud kind of went off. This year, it's Caleb Williams, and then obviously it's Jaden Daniels, who's the one who's kind of showing more promise. And also at the same time, you're seeing these backup quarterbacks in the rise. You're seeing Baker Mayfield. You're seeing, obviously, Sam Darnold. And not to mention Andy Dalton, who's working into these systems that are there. So what really is it? And you're seeing situations like with Anthony Richardson, who gets hurt, obviously.
Yep.
But Joe Flacco comes in and wins the fucking game. So what is it? What is it that we truly value in the league for quarterbacks? Is it the fifth-year option and I can get production out of these young guys for cheap or whatever it is, and then they can't do it, so I have the backup quarterback? Like, I'm confused on what the priority is, Jake. We talked about it last week, about how these GMs and our coaches are using these quarterbacks, whether they're out there too early or they can't. It's a system they can't do. Like, what is it? What is it, Jake?
It's a lot of things, but I think the biggest thing is simply this. Every year you have the best college quarterbacks that come from all different kinds of systems, run options. I mean, all different kinds of systems that succeed in college because they're great runners, because they have great lines and linemen and defenses, whatever the case may be. You have all these college, superstar quarterbacks going to the worst teams every year. The worst teams every year. And every year, for the most part, they're pretty much the same teams. I mean, the Jets, the Giants, the Browns, they're the same disgruntled franchises that just year in and year out don't have success. That what for them, they just don't have the leadership from the GM down. They have massive turnover in the front office and in the coaching. And you just don't have success in the NFL. Regardless of how good you are, it's very rare for one of these kids to come in and be a superstar day one. Peyton Manning threw the all-time record for interceptions as a rookie when he came in. He started day one and he threw like 34 interceptions, and people were writing him off. And he was somebody that was obviously able to overcome that because the franchise didn't just say, well, he's not the guy, and then fire the head coach, and then next year hire a new head coach that wanted to draft another quarterback because that wasn't their guy. Peyton wasn't their guy. This year, it's just if Caleb Williams, for example, the Bears go 3 and whatever, then they'll probably get a high pick. Caleb Williams will probably be on the chopping block next year. And, and if they go have another bad year of, 5 wins or whatever, then the coach will probably be fired. The GM will probably be fired. And then they'll bring in, all new systems and this and that. Baker had 4 offensive coordinators in the first 4 years, at Cleveland. Guys just don't typically succeed in that. It's not that it's not impossible, but you're seeing it now more and more than ever when you have I'm not saying a system, but you have a team in place, and then you put a quarterback in the middle of that situation. There's a lot more success. Sam Darnold has the best team around him than he's ever had, in New York or Carolina. Like, think about like Sam Darnold, his path. He was drafted by the Jets, who have been a wreck ever since. They haven't done anything since they got rid of Sam Darnold, drafted Zach Wilson, whatever the case. Then he goes to Carolina, which, sorry, Ben, a wreck. And now what do you know? Sam Darnold goes to a place that's got a good defense. They got a decent O-line. They got receivers. And the guy looks fucking fantastic. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. It's just, I think, long story short, I think NFL franchises build their formula for success is backwards when you're expecting rookie quarterbacks to come in and have a lot of success. And there's the jury's still out with like CJ Stroud and all that. I haven't looked at a lot of his numbers this year and all that, but there has been a lot of rookies that have come in. Baker was one of them, and lit the world on fire. And then the next year they go into a slump. Teams figure him out. They figure out how to scheme him, how to defend what they do, and then it's that they're caught because they don't have a defense and they don't have an O-line and all this and that. It's just so ass backwards the way that these franchises build teams. And you see it when you can take like a guy like Flacco and drop him, like on the Cleveland Browns last year. And they had a great O-line. They had a good run game. He was fantastic. I guarantee you the Colts win more games with Flacco this year. Guarantee it. Because he can simply read it, it's like they don't need much. They don't need much, but I think these kids coming in, it's just too much, too fast. And as I'll wrap it up because I know I'm going on. But as I talked about last week, Green Bay is the one franchise that does it right, and they take so much criticism every year. Favre still got a few good years left. Green Bay is a competitor every year. They draft Aaron Rodgers. Why don't you get somebody that helps you win now? because they had time to groom that quarterback into being a next now Hall of Famer. They do the same thing with Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers goes nuts when they drafted Jordan Love. Why don't we get somebody in here to help us win now? And now, albeit it's a slow start for Jordan Love, but it's like there's already been he's got a good team around him, good core, and he's had time to learn and grow into how to be an NFL quarterback. And teams just don't do that anymore, and it's a shame.
Drew, we're talking about these quarterback situations with the draft pick, the rookies, or the veterans. Meanwhile, the world continues to hate on Brock Purdy, even though he's leading statistically, and so
who hates on him?
I'm not going to say it's me, but
I actually think, and just to go back, I think the 49ers are exact perfect example of what I'm talking about. Purdy comes in as this rookie from Iowa State, undrafted, right? Was he undrafted?
He's the last pick in the draft.
And they have, and I retract. I have seen enough Brock Purdy. I retract my statement from last year that he's some check down guy. Dude's great. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, you just see it. And but they did it right. They had a good O-line. They had a run game. They had a scheme. They had the building blocks around him that were going to help lead him to success. And there's just so many teams that don't do that. And so
that's what I mean,
Drew. Good for the Niners.
That's what I mean. Like, we're talking about rookies, talking about veterans, and the meanwhile, Mr. Irrelevance helping you guys win in San Francisco. So what do you think, Drew?
I think it comes down to really what's simple as this is teams want to not pay for quarterbacks. They don't want to pay the top dollar. Yeah, you can, and the thing is we can all look at these guys like Baker Mayfield. We can look at these guys like Sam Darnold. We can look at these guys like Joe Flacco or Mason Rudolph. Or are these Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks? Are they going to come in? Yeah, they might. They're bridge quarterbacks. That's what they are. They're bridge style quarterbacks. They're going to do a couple wins, but they're not going to make you like Super Bowl caliber style. They're not that style of guy. Are they going to be a competitive team? Yeah, okay, sure. But I think that's the point with GMs and where they're trying to do is, especially with these teams that, are consistently, kind of rough. It's like they're looking for that stud. They're looking for somebody to come in and get them out of the hump and not have to pay them top dollar. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can go spend a couple $1 million on a decent backup because, hey, what if this guy gets hurt or this, that, Dan Darnold and now Baker got paid. But when they first brought him in, he wasn't making that much money. And so it's like you can go and get these affordable backups and with that. You know what I mean? But Dan Darnold's only there because J.J. McCarthy's there. McCarthy got hurt. Darnold stepped in, and now he's doing what? But at the end of the day, next year, they're going to have a huge offseason, turmoil about is it going to be J.J. McCarthy or is it going to be Sam Darnold? Like, the truth. Like, if the Vikings go first round playoffs and they bounce out, guess what? Sam Darnold's not going to be that relevant anymore. J.J. McCarthy's going to get all the hype because these guys don't want to pay these quarterbacks that aren't going to eventually put you over the stepping stone. You can, like, that's where Brock Purdy's so amazing right now because we're paying him $1 million, $1 million bucks. And yeah, we have a Super Bowl caliber roster and this, that, and the other, but that's the real truth of it. We got lucky. We got him $1 million contract. And if he takes us to the Super Bowl again, then yeah, you're damn right. We should pay him because he went to the NFC Championship, Super Bowl, and if he goes to Super Bowl again, how do you not pay somebody like that? That's really what it comes down to. They want to pay. They want to have the youth. They want to have somebody who has upside, and they want to, be relevant for the next 3 or 4 years. Why that guy continues for greatness. The thing Jake that kind of bugs me is he talks about Jordan Love all the time about being good. Like he has like out of his whole he has a couple of good games. The guy isn't that great. Last game he had 3 picks. Like we're putting Jordan Love into this caliber that he's some great quarterback. He's had a couple flashes of good games, but he hasn't made anything spectacular yet.
First off, I'm not putting him in the caliber of like Hall of Fame, like Green Bay just set up their next Hall of Fame guy. Jordan Love, his first year as a starter, went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. In your first year, that's pretty good. Yeah, you're right. Jordan Love, last week he just threw 3 picks. The guy also had his knee go completely backwards 2 weeks ago on TV, completely pop out of place. So, let's cut that a little bit of slack. We don't know how healthy he was, but you're right. Jordan Love has definitely profited from a really high touchdown rate, and we haven't seen him be the guy to lead back, and lead these guys back. But considering, although Jordan Love has been in the league, last year was his first real year, starting. I bet you'll take that body of work over what's going to be Caleb Williams' body of, first year body of work, Bo Nix's first year body of work, because Jordan Love had time to sit and learn the pace of the NFL and how to be an NFL quarterback off the field before on the field. And I think in the long run, you'll see that has a positive effect on guys. I think Jordan Love will be better than a lot of these quarterbacks now because of how the franchise brought him into the league and took that approach.
I know, it really is interesting what's happening. I think Drew is correct. There's something going on with the contracts with these quarterbacks they don't want to pay. There's something going on with these contracts with the running backs they don't want to pay. And it's just so confusing. We mentioned it last week, Jake. Like, what is going on with the league? Do these teams really want to win? Or is it just building a business and a profitable business, possibly saving some money? Or do we want to win?
Well, it's not that, these contracts that these teams don't want to pay. I mean, these franchises get pigeonholed into paying these players what they're asking. And then, look what happens. You get a Deshaun Watson, or, you paid Aaron Rodgers 2 years for all this money. It's garbage, this and that. But, I mean, for the love of God, look at the contracts now that teams are shelling out to these guys. Jordan Love was the highest paid player in NFL history, for a brief second before, Burrow signed, and the money going to these quarterbacks is absolutely crazy. So it's not that I think the teams are looking for, a cheap way out or whatever, but I think a lot of the times when they do pay these superstars, very rarely is it worth giving up 40% of your salary cap to a quarterback when you can't afford a line to protect him, receivers, to catch for him. It's just, it doesn't make sense almost. I would rather pay a Baker Mayfield $20 million a year than pay a Joe Burrow $45 million a year or whatever, and then be able to put players around Baker Mayfield to make him great,
Right.
Yeah. Look at Trevor Lawrence and look at Daniel Jones. Like those, like Jake's saying, those, like, essentially those teams are kind of capped. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to pay them essentially. Like, who else are you gonna go get? I mean the Jaguars have been decent playoff eligible team while Trevor Lawrence is there. Like, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't really flashed to be $50 million quarterback. Like Daniel Jones, like fucking decided to pay Daniel Jones instead of Saquon Barkley, and look how that's fucking playing out. You know what I mean? Like,
Drew, you actually just gave the two most perfect examples that you could give for this topic, because those were both quarterbacks that had success, but they were nowhere near what, especially Trevor Lawrence, where he was drafted, the hype, who he was supposed to be. He's not been anywhere near that. But it's like, if you're a franchise, what do? Do you let this guy go who has not been a complete bust by any means, but not anywhere near the expectations you had, or do you pay him? But the thing is if you're going to pay him, you're going to have to pay him what the market value for these guys is going. And it's unfortunate, and this is where I think franchises kind of get their hands tied, but it's like you can't say, okay, well, we'll pay you, but it's not going to be the value that so-and-so got this year. We're going to pay you $25 million a year or whatever. Like, no, because then they walk and some idiot team, probably like the Giants, signs him for a bunch of, stupid money, or the Browns. And then that franchise is left with essentially a first-round pick that won you some playoff games, that had good success, that just walked, that you got nothing for. you look as a GM, you look like an idiot. You know, if you weren't going to re-sign him, they say, why didn't you trade him? You know, so it's a really tough, I think, position to be in at the time the quarterback come to a contract extension and want to get paid. I.e. Dak this offseason.
I don't know, man. There's some funny business going on. I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks are good, right? And so, I mean, if Trevor Lawrence was a Chief, would they have the same success? Or do you think that would make a difference?
No, because I think the referees would move to wherever Mahomes is playing. But
there we go. There's some fishy stuff going on, like there always is. But I agree. But to close it out, you guys, that's basically where we're at right now in the fantasy perspective. The waiver wire is still a little bit dry because most competitive leagues have taken everything, and tight end has been dry, running back has been dry. And because the injuries have been so bad, people have already gone forward and taken these guys. And so, like I said, right now the best thing you can do is try to make trades, try to see what happens around the league, and like I said, hopefully you came up on one of these late quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, somehow a late value that's going to help you win fantasy games. But other than that, we're going to be here every week trying to figure out how to put together wins. Right, Jake?
Yeah. I say this about the waiver wires. You know, we got bye weeks coming now. A lot of guys that, you know, a lot of your league mates that were stashing backups and stashing, you know, that extra, you know, 2 or 3 quarterbacks and stuff. People are going to have to drop guys, and there will be guys on the waiver wire. There will be guys to add that, you know, haven't been there. This is where the waiver wire kind of gets a little bit juicy. So, you know, or juicier. So just, you know, pay attention to who's dropping who, and, you know, and all that.
Yeah, really quickly. I mean, I know we're getting ready to take off, but there are a few names out there. I mean, Tutu Atwell back to back, you know, double-digit weeks in PPR leagues. Dontavian Wicks had 13 targets, and it looks like, oh my goodness, what's that guy's name? Christian Watson's going to be out for multiple weeks, so maybe look into him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is windows back open to potentially come back. I know the Chiefs have had, you know, a number of names of running backs, but he's the only one that's really familiar with that system and knows how it goes. So he's somebody maybe just stash if you can. And the last one I wanted to bring up, there was one more. I can't think of it right now. Give me 1 second.
Thank Bigsby.
Alan Lazard. I mean, Alan Lazard, dude, he's putting up touchdowns almost every week, you know, and he's out there a lot. So speaking of like Aaron Rodgers and familiarity stuff, you know, that's, you know, obviously if Devontae Adams goes there, Alan Lazard's not going to have much value. But Mike Williams is off to a slow start, and Alan Lazard has been great. So he's somebody else to add as well.
That's a good one.
I agree. Well, there you have it, folks. I want to thank the viewers for joining us today. I want to thank our hosts, Jake and Drew, for being here and for your time, giving us your insight. And we will be here next week, 6 p.m. live. Okay, and so, like I said, until next time, guys, next week, peace be the journey.
Go Padres.
And one love.
Basically.